when it comes to running a business, what can happen when you show up with a whole bunch of passion, but not a lot of business acumen, is that you tend to think if you specialize, if you make a decision to solve a more sophisticated problem, you tend to think you're going to exclude a lot of people. And that really hurts because you're passionate about helping a lot of people. And so you're like, I don't want to be a specialist. I want to help anybody that comes into my office. I want to help anybody that applies to work. I want to help anybody that raises their hand. And that's cool. And you can do that. We did it for 4 years, right? However, if you're trying to generate revenue that consistently grows over time, you're going to have to start solving more sophisticated problems to see a significant increase in the revenue that you generate as a speaker or a coach. It's necessary.
Optimal health is not a privilege, it's a right. However, unfortunately, the overwhelming majority of health challenges today can be attributed to lifestyle. This includes our physical activity, the quality of our relationships, stress, purpose and fulfillment, and of course, our diet. But what if there was an alternative? What if we could prevent and combat these health challenges with lifestyle changes before pills and procedures? You are listening to the Plant Protocol podcast with yours truly, plant-based health and business coach, and now the forever voice in your head, Lisa A. Smith. It's time to come get this health.
So in 2019, having been in business 4 years so far, I was full-time teaching plant-based nutrition. I had personally retired from personal training, and I was full on just focusing on nutrition and how to get individuals results as a nutrition coach, specifically a plant-based nutrition coach. And having started our signature program, Farm to Table, which is a plant-based coaching program, I had started that just in 2016, so 3 years prior. And we had really done the work to refine that program at that time. And we were getting people into the program and they were getting results. Like, I was super convicted about the power of a whole food plant-based lifestyle. I was feeling good about what I have personally achieved from living a plant-based lifestyle. And I was feeling good about the results we were getting people. But here's the issue. For some reason, our revenue wasn't matching our service level, right? Like, our revenue wasn't growing at the level I felt like it should have been growing at, based on the amount of results we were getting people. And so I'm like, what is happening, right? Like, what's going on? And so what we had to do was I had to humble myself and realize I had the passion, I had the mastery over the science, I had the mastery over my subject matter, but I did not have the business acumen that I needed to take business to the next level. I had to be honest about that. And so in 2020, I decided to hire our first business coach. Now, I had invested in a course prior to 2020, but it was just a digital course. Like, it didn't come with a whole lot of live instruction. I wasn't able to really ask direct questions. But in 2020, I decided to hire a coach who had a more interactive program. And that coach taught me something that really, really changed the game for us in business. And I want to share what that is with you guys today, because if you're a speaker, coach, or consultant who is passionate about the work you do, you're passionate about helping other people, but also you need to run a whole business, and a business can't run without revenue, period. I don't care how passionate you are about being in service to people. If you're doing it from a monetization standpoint and you're like, I'm passionate about helping people, but I actually want to monetize my expertise, you have to have business acumen. There is no two ways about it. There's no way to get around it. You have to have business acumen to be successful in business. And it took us 4 years to learn this. I was like, I'm so passionate about helping people. I can just run the business on passion. I just want to serve everybody, and I want everybody to be so healthy, and I want everybody to be healthy enough to live out their assignment, and I could just run my business on passion. How many of you guys are super passionate about what you do? You want to help nearly everybody. You can talk for 4 days and 4 nights about your subject matter, like you love it, love it, love it, but you also recognize I got to run a real business, which means I have to generate revenue. And ideally, we should be growing in revenue. So here on the Plan Protocol podcast, we focus on health, how to optimize our health so that we're showing up as our best selves for our clients. But then I also focus on business, because I don't care how healthy you are, or how passionate you are, how good-hearted you are, how many good intentions you have. If you do not have business acumen, your business will fail. Okay. So you need strategy and you need business acumen. People are not going to keep you in business just because you're passionate about helping them. They will just take. And if you don't have strategy on the back end, you won't grow. So let's get into it. I'm going to tell you the one major adjustment. We made many adjustments over the years. I've been in business 10 years. I've been running a coaching company for 10 years, nonstop, no breaks. But we made one major adjustment about 5 years ago that I think will be extremely helpful for a lot of you all who are passionate about speaking, coaching, and consulting and helping other people solve problems. And I think the adjustment that we made in business will help you to kind of take a look at what adjustment you might need to make so that you can increase your revenue. When we made this adjustment, we surpassed multiple six figures in annual revenue. And I remember with this particular coach that helped me, she was phenomenal. And I remember I went to one of her live events the following year, and we were one of the, businesses in our program who won the 200K award for surpassing over $200,000 that year. And it was super dope, right? And so when I'm telling you works, when I'm telling you is from experience, this is not theory. We have used this same tactic ever since we started using it 5 years ago, and it works very, very well. And then, so not only am I about to share with you guys the adjustment we made to our offer, I'm also going to give you about 4 reasons why you need to make the adjustment, right? So I'm not going to just tell you what to do. I'm also going to tell you why you should do it. And I'm hoping that this helps a lot of you guys who are maybe, if you're just starting in business, you're in a perfect place because you don't have to wait 4 years to get this nugget like we did. And if you're already in business, it's pretty easy to make this adjustment really quickly for different reasons for you because you have data that you can use to make this adjustment. So I hope this helps. Let's get into it. And it's very, very simple. Back in 2020, the one adjustment that we made in order to significantly increase our revenue as a coaching company and for me as a speaker is we started publicly solving a more sophisticated problem for people. The one adjustment you need to make to your coaching offer or your speaking offer is you need to solve a more sophisticated problem. Let me put this in other words, AKA, you must start owning a bigger result. I'm going to give you plenty of examples. So start solving a more sophisticated problem and start owning a bigger result. Let me make it even simpler. I like to say things like 4 different ways to make sure we got it. A different way of saying this is you must now go from a generalist to a specialist. You must make the public transition. And I'm going to tell you why I keep saying public. You must make the public transition from a generalist to a specialist. AKA, you need to solve a more sophisticated problem. AKA, you need to publicly own a bigger result. So before my coach taught me this process and why it was necessary to do it, we were a generic plant-based coaching program, to say the least, right? So Farm to Table, our signature plant-based coaching program, I started it in 2016. And because I started it with so much passion, like many of you do the work you do because of how much passion you have. You do the work you do because you probably had a personal experience and now you want to help other people have a similar personal transformation. And what happens when you're a speaker or a coach with a bunch of passion, while our passion is super dope, sometimes when you have all passion and no business acumen as a speaker or a coach, your passion becomes the bottleneck in your business. And let me tell you how. I'm a plant-based vegan. I've personally maintained a 65-pound weight loss using a plant-based lifestyle. I've gained a crap ton of mental clarity using a plant-based lifestyle. I've been able to optimize my health from the neck down, no medications, no supplements, except for vitamin D, no health challenges, mental health, emotional health, optimized using a plant-based lifestyle. And so you can imagine how passionate I am about teaching people the power of plants. However, when it comes to running a business, what can happen when you show up with a whole bunch of passion, but not a lot of business acumen, is that you tend to think if you specialize, if you go from a generalist to a specialist, if you make a decision to solve a more sophisticated problem, you tend to think you're going to exclude a lot of people. And that really hurts because you're passionate about helping a lot of people. And so you're like, I don't want to own a bigger resort. I don't want to own a specific lane. I don't want to specialize. I don't want to be a specialist. I want to help anybody that comes into my office. I want to help anybody that applies to work. I want to help anybody that raises their hand. And that's cool. And you can do that. We did it for 4 years, right? However, if you're trying to generate revenue that consistently grows over time, you're going to have to start solving more sophisticated problems to see a significant increase in the revenue that you generate as a speaker or a coach. It's necessary. When you decide to only solve generic problems so that you can help more people, you do sometimes help more people. However, you run the risk of capping the amount of revenue you can generate in your business. Because you're trying to help everyone, it's very hard to solve a more sophisticated problem, right? And so what happens is you look up, like we did 4 years into business, and you're trying to figure out why you're not growing in business, although you have a whole laundry list of people who have been recipients of your services and they have gotten results, and you know you're good at what you do, and you know you're the best at what you do. But for some reason, business isn't going to the next level, which means you can't do things like hire. You can't do things like invest in continuing education at a higher level. You can't do things like invest in bigger, more efficient systems, right? Because you don't have the cash flow in the business to do that. And the reason you don't have the cash flow in your business to do that is because you insist on helping everybody. You insist on remaining a generalist, and you're refusing to own a bigger resort. Now, so passion is one thing that stops us from owning a bigger resort. I'm going to tell you one more thing that stops us from doing this, and then I'm going to give you some examples, and then I'm going to tell you why you should do this, okay? So passion is one thing that prevents us from specializing and owning a bigger result and solving a more sophisticated problem. The second thing that I've noticed that speakers and coaches and consultants, the second reason why they resist specializing and solving a more sophisticated problem is from fear, right? What that means is if you start publicly telling a specific group of people that you can solve a specific problem for them, a lot of times fear of not being able to perform shows up, right? It's much easier to say, I can help everybody who's interested in plant-based living to adopt a plant-based diet, and I can teach them how to eat, and I can give them recipes, and I can teach them how to get their protein, and I can teach them how to get their vitamins and nutrients, and I can tell them the time of day to eat, and I can tell them how to eat out. It's much easier to do that more generic content, right? But if you tell a group of women who are battling breast cancer that you can help them utilize a plant-based diet to expedite their treatment, whoa, that's a little scarier, right? And so sometimes fear comes into it. If you tell a group of people who are living with lupus that you can help them adopt a plant-based lifestyle to combat some of the steroid medication they have to take and to combat the chronic fatigue that they feel, whoa, that's a little scarier, right? And so the second reason speakers, coaches, and consultants resist owning a bigger result is for fear that they won't be able to deliver. So let me tell you why we should do this. First, let me give you 2 more examples. So the 2 examples I just gave, right? Women with breast cancer, specifically metastatic breast cancer. who are in the midst of treating it. That's a real example. So I run a coaching company, and I specifically have a business coaching program, the Plant Protocol, where I help plant-based vegans package their passion into a health coaching business, right? And this is the very first thing they do when they come into our curriculum. We ask them to choose a specialization. And so some of the specializations that we have inside of the Plant Protocol, we have one coach who literally specializes in helping women with metastatic breast cancer adopt a plant-based lifestyle to assist in putting that cancer in remission. We have another coach, shout out to Coach Sharice. She specifically helps people with lupus utilize a whole food plant-based diet to combat the chronic fatigue that often comes with having lupus. She's owning a bigger result, solving a more sophisticated problem. Let me give you maybe another example because we can keep going because I got a whole team of coaches that I'm helping do this, right? And so we also have another coach, Coach Carmel, and she helps individuals who have a sugar addiction combat a sugar addiction. And again, she also uses a plant-based lifestyle to do this. So these are examples of owning a bigger result and solving a more sophisticated problem. So instead of them being generic plant-based coaches who can just help anybody better understand plant-based living and better eat on a plant-based diet, they're talking to a specific segment of the population and helping them solve a specific problem within their specialization. Does that make sense, guys? So if you want to significantly, not slightly move the needle, but if you want to significantly move the needle in your revenue in your coaching or speaking business, you have to start publicly solving a more sophisticated problem and owning a bigger result. When we hired our coach, our first business coach in 2020, I told you guys at the time, the only coaching program that I had was Farm to Table. Right now, I didn't start business coaching until 2021. So back in 2019, we only had Farm to Table, our plant-based coaching program. And at that time, it was like, come one, come all. Like, let's get it. Anybody can get in here. I don't care who you are. If you want to get healthy and you want to take a plant-based approach to getting healthy, come into Farm to Table. And so, when my coach was like, okay, you need qualifiers, you need specificity, you need to be talking to someone instead of everyone. I was like, okay. One of the things she taught us how to do was to create a qualification process. And so that's exactly what I did. So let me give you your first reason why you should be solving a more sophisticated problem and owning a bigger result as a speaker or a coach, okay? The first reason is because you get to qualify or disqualify people. When you qualify or disqualify people from working with you, then you can charge more because you're solving a more sophisticated problem, right? And when you solve a more sophisticated problem, that means there usually needs to be qualifiers or disqualifiers in order for people to work with you. Okay, so I want to talk about qualifying versus not qualifying, all right? So here's what I was saying. When you specialize and when you own a bigger result in your coaching or in your speaking career, it gives you the opportunity to specialize, and it gives you the opportunity then to qualify or disqualify people. So back in 2019, when we first started this process, I was telling you guys that we were like, come one, come all. We'll help anybody. It doesn't matter. Anybody who wants to get healthy. But then I decided to own a bigger result, and I decided to take like the top 4 or 5 lifestyle diseases that the majority of Americans who are dealing with a lifestyle disease are combating. And I decided to own the fact that we can combat those, right? So we're talking about obesity, hypertension, high cholesterol, type 2 diabetes, right? And so what I did for Farm to Table back in 2020 to own a bigger result and to solve a more sophisticated problem so that we can 10x our revenue and surpass multiple 6 figures is I created a qualification process, which included an application process, and I started qualifying or disqualifying people to join the program. So the very first question on the Farm to Table application says, are you combating a lifestyle disease, right? And so they had to select which one they were combating before they could even get through the rest of the application and before they could even get on a phone call with us, right? So yes or no, are you currently in the midst of combating something? So no longer were we accepting people into the program who were just plant curious. No longer were we accepting people into the program who were just interested in learning more about a plant-based lifestyle. We now demanded that you had to be in a semi-health crisis in order to get into the program because we were solving a bigger problem. We were saying, if you have these conditions, we're confident that we can help you move the needle with them in a significant way when you come into our program. So we were owning a bigger result. Let me give you another example. In our business coaching program, in our business accelerator, the Plan Protocol Business Accelerator, we also have a qualification or disqualification process. So we have an application, and the very first question on the application says, do you currently live a plant-based lifestyle? Because if we're going to help you create a plant-based coaching business, then you need to be living the lifestyle. That's one of our qualifiers. So we only help plant-based vegans build and grow a plant-based coaching company and business. Like, we don't help people who are just like, I want to learn this for myself first and get healthy, and then I want to help other people. No. If you come into our plant-based business accelerator, then you have to already be living the lifestyle. So the first question is, do you live the lifestyle? And then the second question, our second qualifier, the second question is, what results have you personally gotten from living the lifestyle? So two qualifiers that we have in our business accelerator, if you want to start a plant-based coaching business, is, do you live the lifestyle, and have you had a transformation from living the lifestyle? Right? And so now we're qualifying or disqualifying people to be in our ecosystem based on the application process versus just saying anybody who wants a coaching business, anybody who will help anybody who wants a health coaching business. It doesn't matter your personal health journey. It doesn't matter if you've ever gotten receipts. We say, no, we only help people who have do this and who have done this. Right. And so this really changed the game, because when you qualify or disqualify people to work with you because you're now solving a more sophisticated problem, you then can naturally charge more. Now, you can't charge more if you can't hold up your end of the bargain, right? And so if you're not qualified to help people, for example, combat metastatic breast cancer using a plant-based lifestyle, then you shouldn't own that problem. If you're not qualified to help people with lupus combat chronic fatigue, you shouldn't own that problem. If you're not qualified to help people combat a sugar addiction, you shouldn't own that problem. But here's how you decide, because one of the challenges that a lot of new coaches have and a lot of new speakers have is, I want to specialize, but I'm not sure what to specialize in. So let me give you guys a little framework on how to do this. The first way you decide what to specialize in is looking at what you've personally done or accomplished, right? So when it comes to coaching, guys, coaching is not just teaching. And one of the biggest mistakes that current and aspiring coaches make is thinking that the only thing they have to do to help somebody is tell them everything they know. That's not going to do it. Like, telling somebody everything you know about a subject matter is not enough to truly help somebody. You also have to be able to speak from experience. The things that changes other people's lives is not just what you know, which technically they can go out and learn as well, right? Like, there's power in being a teacher, but being a teacher is not enough to be an effective coach or a speaker. You also have to bring with that teaching an experience. And so how do you select what problem to own? How do you select where to get more sophisticated in your offer? You should base it on what you've personally done, right? And so this is just like a credit counselor or a finance coach being like, I can help anybody improve their credit. I can help anybody improve their credit score. Okay, that's a generic offer, and you ain't gonna be able to charge much for that, right? However, if you say something like, I can help people improve their credit score and position their credit profile to get the best funding to purchase their first home, that's a more sophisticated problem that's owning a bigger result, right? Because the truth of the matter is, improving your credit is just a vehicle. You need to know, why does your prospect want to improve their credit? Somebody over here wants to buy a house. Somebody over here wants to retire, but they don't feel safe yet, so they want to improve their credit. Somebody over here wants to do something else. So improving your credit is just a vehicle. Same thing with a plant-based lifestyle. I can own a generic result and say, I can help anybody go plant-based. But the real money The real opportunity is understanding why they want to go plant-based and owning one of those results. This group of people wants to go plant-based because they're super passionate about protecting the animals and the earth. This group of people wants to go plant-based because they have type 2 diabetes. This group of people wants to go plant-based because they're overweight. This group of people wants to go plant-based because of brain fog and cognitive functioning, and they are worried about dementia as they age, right? Own one of those results instead of just owning the vehicle. A plant-based diet is just a vehicle. Credit repair is just a vehicle. But when you own the result, when you own the destination, i.e. you get more specific, you get more specialized. Why do they want to go plant-based? Why do they want to repair their credit? Own the destination instead of owning the vehicle, then you will see your business grow. This is the same thing for speaking. When you specialize in something and you master a subject matter as a speaker, you can market yourself differently. You have mastery over something and you become more attractive to organizers who are booking speakers, right? So this past weekend, I was in Tennessee, in Gatlinburg, and I specifically spoke to a group of women about chronic stress. Why? Because I publicly own that subject matter, publicly on my social media. I've done a lot of content over the last year about the dangers of chronic stress. I've taught like a ton of private masterclasses about chronic stress. And so when I show up, and I'm not just talking generic health fluff, but I'm owning a specific problem and I'm saying I have a solution for helping people to eliminate chronic stress versus what they've been doing, which is managing it. That becomes attractive to organizers who wants to help their audience with stress. And so I get booked to talk about stress. I don't care if it's on the stage or if it's in a coaching offer. When you own a bigger result and not just decide to stay safe and generic, then you can grow your revenue. Let me give you a couple more reasons why this is super important and what it allows you to do when you solve a more sophisticated problem.
Over the past decade, I've worked really hard to establish a personal brand, a brand that has been built organically off of my persona, personal values, preferences, and mastery. One of the things I know to be true about building a personal brand is that it would not have been possible or as successful had I not started with my personal health. For me, that meant physically losing weight and gaining body confidence, developing self-awareness, and most importantly, healing emotionally from things that I needed to work through before I could show up authentically in my business and be in service to others. If you know that you need to do the work to significantly improve your physical, mental, or emotional health so that you can establish or grow your personal brand, you need to be in the Next Plant Protocol 30-Day Vegan, Salt, Oil, and Sugar-Free Challenge. This is my way of helping you to do exactly what I've personally done. Gain professional success by starting with personal success. Many times when we're on a mission to help others, we get consumed by what we need to learn or the credentials we believe we need before we're qualified and ready to serve. However, what we really need is to start with ourselves. We need to start with self-mastery. We actually need to get the weight off and eliminate things like chronic fatigue. We need to start feeding our bodies and our brain properly and lift things like brain fog so that we can clearly be creative and have recall. We need the ability to concentrate so that we can produce excellent intellectual property. If you want to do things like write a book or create some other form of intellectual property, maybe you want to become a well-known and highly sought-after speaker. If you're interested in having a coaching program that actually transforms lives, then you are required to be the best version of yourself first. You can't show up as a mediocre version of yourself trying to help others become the best version of themselves. So if I'm talking to you and your personal brand needs some work, I invite you to register for the Next Plant Protocol 30-Day Vegan, Salt, Oil, and Sugar-Free Challenge, the Personal Brand Edition. The challenge runs from July 1st to July 30th. However, prep classes will be held in the month of April, May, and June leading up to the challenge. Past challengers have experienced things like significant weight loss, complete reversal or remission of conditions like type 2 diabetes and hypertension, getting over food addictions, mental and emotional clarity. We've even had people who have actually launched their businesses directly from the information they've received and the experience they had during the challenge. This is where you want to be. If you are a current or aspiring speaker, coach, consultant, or leader desiring to impact the lives of others. So click the link in the show notes and join us in our next Plant Protocol 30-day plant-based salt, oil, and sugar-free challenge. We're looking forward to launching your personal brand. Now on to the show.
Now, one of the things that a lot of coaches and a lot of speakers are really afraid of. So it's so funny. It's like a catch-22. Like a lot of people are afraid of owning a bigger result and specializing because they're afraid they won't be able to. They're like, what if I don't help people? What if I don't know enough to help somebody with that? So I'd rather just stay safe and generic. That way I don't have to take responsibility for helping somebody, right? And so what happens is they shy away from specializing and they shy away from solving a more sophisticated problem. But what's so funny is that when you decide to specialize and only help women with metastatic breast cancer, when you decide to specialize and only help people who want to buy their first home, when you decide to specialize and only help people with type 2 diabetes, this affords you to develop mastery quicker. It's like a catch-22. It's like you don't want to specialize because you don't feel like you know enough. But when you decide to specialize, then you develop mastery quicker because you only study your subject matter. You don't have to worry about having an influx of people who have 101 different problems. You only invite people in who have one specific problem. And then that helps you to develop mastery quicker because you're only studying one type of person. You're only studying one type of problem. Your continuing education is all focused around one specific thing. And you actually can become the subject matter expert, the foremost thought leader on that subject matter much quicker, like much quicker. And so it affords you the opportunity to develop mastery quicker when you decide to solve a more sophisticated problem. Does that make sense, y'all? So if you want to help people secure business funding in their business and do it through grants and specifically help nonprofits, boy, oh boy, how quick can you become a subject matter expert in that versus just being a generic business coach who can help anybody get funding for any type of business. But you're like, if I help nonprofits get grants, that's different. Right. And so it's very important to understand that the mastery that you think you don't have actually comes when you specialize and own a more sophisticated problem. Okay. Publicly, you have to do it publicly. That means you're willing to show up on your marketing platform. So wherever you're putting out content to attract people to you, you have to publicly own this problem. Right. So I've been publicly saying for years, I can help plant-based vegans package their passion into a specialized coaching business. Now, suffice it to say, my process for helping people develop a coaching business can help anybody. The process is not that dialed in that only vegans can have success. But I publicly promote it to that group of people because it helps me to attract a certain audience much quicker and become a specialist much quicker. But all types of coaches reach out to me and say, I'm not trying to be a health coach. I'm trying to be a relationship coach, but maybe you can help me. And I'm like, I sure can. Right. And so you publicly own a specific result. You publicly own a specific problem. But I guarantee you, when you're really good at what you do, you will still attract people who are interested in what you do, but they're not exactly within your unique specialization. And then you use discernment on whether or not you're going to help them. But publicly owning a specific problem and solving a more sophisticated problem will help you to quickly increase the amount of revenue that your business generates. So number one, your mastery. You develop mastery much quicker. The second thing is you become more attractive much quicker. So I don't know about y'all, but when I go out to a restaurant and it might be a new restaurant, maybe, something I discovered around town, something I passed by while driving. Maybe the people I'm going out to eat with, they love this place or something. One of the things that turns me off the most about some restaurants is how long and big their menu is. Is anyone else turned off by restaurants who have like 4 or 5 pages of options and they're all over the place. It's like Italian, and we can do a little Asian fusion, but we also got tacos. Are you a burger girl? We got those too. And it's like, y'all ain't own nothing. So you're not willing to be good at anything. You just like, we're going to give everybody everything they want. I am instantly turned off, like instantly. When you want really good Italian, I can almost guarantee you guys are not thinking like Applebee's or TGI Fridays. Right? Like if you're in the mood for a really, really good like burger, you're not thinking Chick-fil-A. Right? And so I need you guys to understand that you are much more attractive when you own something versus trying to be in service to everybody. So just like the, recent organizations that reached out to me to speak about stress, they're like, I've seen you on social media, or I listened to your podcast, or I've seen you on other stages and you were so good talking about this subject matter. I want you to come talk to my people about this subject matter. I want you to come talk to them about stress, right? As a matter of fact, you become so attractive that people not only want to book you as a speaker, they want to continue to work with you. So a few weeks ago, I had the pleasure of doing a speaking engagement for Intel, right? Intel Corporation. And you guys know Intel, they make the computer chips and stuff, right? And they wanted me to specifically talk about stress because she had seen me talking about stress publicly, right, on social media. And so she's like, come in, talk about stress to our group. And I was like, I got you, right? So I did just that and loved it so much that at the end of my talk with the organization, she's like, let's book some time to get you back. Let's do a debrief call because I want you to tell us what workshops and things you can come in and teach like on an ongoing basis, right? So I actually have a meeting this week with the organizers from Intel to talk about doing some additional workshops and things with the organization based on me owning a bigger problem. I can help people eliminate chronic stress. And that instead of just being like, I can generically help your staff with health, right? We know stress is a part of health, but I decided to dial in on one specific thing that was attractive to the organizer. I was able to knock it out of the park during my presentation because I was dialed in on one specific thing. So I was able to go deep instead of go wide. And it was so effective that now they want to have another conversation about bringing me back to do a series of workshops and presentations within the organization. Now, suffice it to say, when I do a series of workshops within the organization, I'm going to be able to branch out a little more with my subject. But when you are niched and when you are specialized, it makes you more attractive up front. And then you can spread your wings on the back end. Does that make sense, guys? So number one, you develop mastery quicker because you can study in a more dialed in way. Number two, it makes you more attractive when you have a high level of understanding and mastery over one thing versus a little bit about a lot of things. Okay. And then I already told you guys that it helps you to develop a qualification or disqualification process so that you can control the results that your clients get by qualifying or disqualifying people to be in the room, right? So those are the 3 ways that owning a bigger result and specializing is going to 10x your revenue in your speaking and coaching business, right? Let me lean into this third one before I go into the next one. Let's just continue on the examples we've been using. If you say, I only help people with metastatic breast cancer, I only help people with lupus, or I only help people who have a sugar addiction, I only help people who are dealing with obesity, but morbid obesity, right? Whatever you decide to dial in on and solve a more sophisticated problem. That also gives you the opportunity when you qualify or disqualify people, it also gives you the opportunity to gather receipts much quicker, i.e. gather testimonials much quicker. Imagine having a program that's full of people who all have the same problem, the same unique problem, right? And then that means your process is curated to solve that specific problem. So your process is literally built out for people with lupus. Your process is literally built out for people with metastatic breast cancer. Your process is literally built out for vegans who want to have a plant-based coaching company. Your process is literally built out to help a specific problem. That means everything in your program is talking directly to them. So that means somebody with type 2 diabetes will have a hard time being successful in your program because it's built out for people with lupus. That means meat eaters who want a keto health coaching business will have a hard time in my program because it's built out for vegans who want a plant-based coaching business, right? So everything in my system, in my process is built out for this specific person. Imagine everybody in a room having the same unique challenges. That also means they're likely going to have similar success, which means you get to collect receipts or testimonials much quicker, which means publicly you get to 10x your results and publicly you get to brag better. You start building up your brag bank, right? Everybody in the room has the same problem. Your process is designed to solve all of their problems. They all have similar challenges, which means they also have similar successes. And quickly, those testimonials start coming in, right? And so if I'm teaching a bunch of plant-based vegans how to have a successful health coaching company, I'm also at the same time increasing our credibility as a company and as a program because I'm so dialed into one unique population. That means the receipts start happening much quicker as well. But if you have a program, I don't know, a financial literacy program, and it's designed to help anybody, regardless of their goals. You got somebody who's new to their career, who wants to invest for the long term. You got somebody who's 2 years away from retirement, who needs to stack money quickly for retirement. You got somebody else who's trying to buy their first home. You got somebody else who's trying to get over bankruptcy. You got all these different type of issues in your financial literacy program. Imagine how much harder it's going to be to stack receipts and testimonials because you're trying to help one person retire and you're trying to help one person who's just entering the job market, right? So stop being married to the vehicle, credit repair and budgeting, and start being married to the outcome, preparing you for retirement, preparing you to buy your first home, preparing you to save conservatively over 40 years so that you could be ready for retirement in 40 years. Like those are all different types of people. Even though the vehicle is the same, financial literacy, the destinations are different. And so it's much harder to stack receipts, to stack testimonials. And sometimes it's even harder to get the receipts and testimonials because all of their questions are so very different. And so when you own a specific problem and when you decide to solve a bigger result instead of being a generalist who's like, I can't help anybody who needs to learn about money. You probably could, but you shouldn't, especially if your business ain't generating enough revenue to keep you in business. Stop trying to help everybody get healthy and help one type of person get healthy. Stop trying to help everybody solve all their problems and just help the parents, okay? Just help the parents. Just help the single women. Just help the vegans. You get what I'm saying? Just help the morbidly obese people. Just help the people who are going through bankruptcy. Just help solve a more sophisticated problem and stop trying to be a generalist and only sell your vehicle, but market the destination. Market the destination and then business will go to the next level. Let me give you the final reason why you should specialize and own a bigger result to 10x your revenue in business. Again, this is what we did many years ago to take us over the multi-six-figure mark, okay? So as a speaker, like on stage, one of the quickest ways you lose an audience when you are booked to speak is by being too doggone sophisticated, meaning too much jargon, too much data, too many facts, too much information. Okay. So here's what happens. When you're good at what you do and when you know your subject matter well, one of the things you want to do is you want to give people as much information as possible in whatever time is allotted. You think just being like this faucet that doesn't turn off, this faucet of information is going to move the needle for people, right? You think helping them, like throwing 8,000 frameworks at them, throwing 8,000 acronyms at them, having all of these facts and data and studies and statistics. Those are my least favorite speakers. Now, some of you guys might love it. I don't like it. So one of the things I've had to do over the years as a speaker is I've had to make sure I balance my talks on stage. I've also had to do this as a coach, balance my lessons in our coaching sessions with data, facts, information, frameworks, with anecdotes, stories, and human experiences. When you specialize as a coach and a speaker, when you decide to own a bigger result and solve a more sophisticated problem, you go from being a teacher, data, facts, information, acronyms, and frameworks, to a coach, experiences, stories, relatability, human. If all you have is information because you're a generalist and you haven't owned a specific result, I help people how to eliminate chronic stress. I help morbidly obese people adopt a plant-based diet to get their, BMI down. I help women with metastatic breast cancer put it in remission in partnership with Western medicine quicker. I help people who are battling a sugar addiction overcome a sugar addiction. When you own that more specific result, instead of being a generalist, you then can show up more as a human, because if you've selected your specialization the way we teach you, which is through personal experience, you're not just going to bring data, facts, jargon, vocabulary, stats, and studies, but you're now going to bring experience, anecdotes, testimonials, and stories. You show up on the stage as a human, i.e. as a coach, and not just as a teacher, and that begins to move the needle. People are moved into action with emotion. There is no emotion in that Harvard study that you keep using over and over again. There is no emotion in all of those statistics that you have from the Center of Disease Control. There is no emotion in that long acronym that you about to break down for us on how to improve your credit score in 90 days. In addition to your super dope framework that you fell in love with, can you attach to it a story for us on how you used your super dope framework to improve your credit score or your client's credit score, and tell us what they did as a result? They bought their first home. Now show us a picture of them standing in front of their first home with their newborn baby, starting their lives out super happy with a 750 credit score. Like, you can't do that if you don't teach people how to improve their credit score to buy their first home. You just teach them how to improve their credit score, which is just a vehicle with no destination. You can't get up and bring tears to people's eyes about how you went from being insecure and self-conscious in your body to body confident and walking in power because you lost 60 plus pounds using a whole food plant-based diet, and that allowed you to start showing up and living in your purpose. It's me. I'm the one who did that. When I get on stage and tell that story, that is going to trump every other statistic or study that I could bring to the stage. It is impossible to do that. It's impossible to have those dialed in experiences and testimonials and stories if you're only selling a vehicle and no destination. If you're solving generic, Googleable problems instead of real sophisticated problems that people can't solve through YouTube and Google. You have to be able to include the human side in order to move the needle for people. You want to see tears come to people's eyes. You want to see smiles coming on people's faces. You want to see awe. You want to see, oh my God. You want to see, oh, I see myself in this story. I see myself in these people. I see myself in this experience, right? It's very hard to have those conversations, whether you're in a coaching session or on a stage, is if all you're doing is deciding to stay generic and be a generalist. Okay? It's hard to demand more money as a speaker or a coach if you are not moving people. Stats and studies don't move people. They're great for shock value if the outcome is really shocking, but that is a fleeting moment. You want people to hear your story. You want people to hear your client stories, and you want them to be like, oh, that's me. That was me. That's going to be me. whatever it is, right? You want that. You want to hear the story about the woman who was 5 years, 10 years away from retirement, who was worried about having to live on a fixed income, thinking she was going to have to move in with her kids, but you helped her to improve her financial situation. And now she has financial freedom in retirement, and you show her a picture and she's doing the dang on thing. And you got a video testimonial from her in some other country on vacation 3 years into retirement because you helped her to improve her financial status. That is what specializing gets you. That is what owning a bigger result gets you. You cannot be scared to solve a more sophisticated problem. The more sophisticated problem you solve, the more it allows you to tell more dialed in stories, to go from just a teacher to an actual coach. Because a teacher just has information, and teachers are necessary. Like, I'm a great teacher, right? Because I got a bunch of information and I can teach a lot of information, and I want to give everybody all the information in my head. But over the years, I've had to use my coaching hat as much as I use my teaching hat. So teaching is just the transference of information. Coaching is helping somebody work through the resistance they feel when it's time to apply what you taught them. And you help them work through that resistance with real world stories, anecdotes, testimonials, especially your own, right? So when I'm able to say to other passionate plant-based vegans that I was where you were, I had used the plant-based diet to get a significant result, a significant transformation. I got passionate about the lifestyle, and I wanted to help other people do the same. They're like, that's me, that's me, that's me. That's definitely me. But if I was just selling a generic coaching business program and I'm just like, I can help anybody who wants to be a coach, and I don't really have a whole bunch of stories, I'm just like, and generically I can help anybody, it's going to be hard for me to connect with people from an emotional standpoint. I hope that makes sense. So the final reason you should be owning a bigger result and solving a more sophisticated problem to 10x your revenue in your business is so that you're not just a teacher when you show up in front of people. You're not just a teacher when in your coaching program. You're not just a teacher on stage, but you are actually a real human, and you go from being a teacher to a coach, meaning I'm not just giving out data and hoping it helps, but I'm actually attaching that to experiences that are going to be emotionally connecting to the people I want to serve. We need to emotionally connect to humans, right? Humans are moved by emotion. So I don't care what the emotion is, right? It can be joy, it can be anticipation, it can be fear, it can be, sadness. It could be a time that we have to connect with people. And it's hard to connect with people when you're just a generalist who's like, I can help anybody in the room. You cannot, and you should not. Okay. Coaching is a intimate sport. It is a contact sport. And so we want to be able to connect with people on a deeper level. And we do that better when we solve a more sophisticated problem, when we own a bigger result. And the final thing I'll say here too, guys, is that let's just be honest. For a lot of us, especially in the teaching and coaching space, we sell free information. The cat's out the bag. Okay. The cat's out the bag. We sell free information. There is no shortage to access of information. Like all the stats and the studies that you're about to spew out to try and convince me to do whatever you're telling me to do is accessible to me. Now, granted, a lot of people ain't going to go find it and look it up, but we sell free information. And so if you're only trying to use information to move the needle for people, and if you think information is going to really get you to the next level in revenue in your business, you're wrong. Now we're moving slowly, or actually quickly, away from like this information age and this information and knowledge sharing age, and we're moving more into a connection age, right? So that means that information is free, but people want to be in community, and they want to be attached to a coach that is going to make all the information come to life. And that's also going to help them work through their limiting beliefs and the resistance they feel to applying the information that they learn, right? And so you have to know how to connect, and you connect with people better when you sell them into a proven process versus selling them into information. So if I say, hey, I created a successful plant-based coaching business, and I'm going to teach you how I did it, That's more attractive because I'm selling you into an experience that I personally had. I'm selling you into success that I have receipts for. And I'm telling you, I can help you do the same. And I'm going to help you work through all the nuances of doing it, right? If I tell you, no, I'm an introvert who has a successful speaking career. I'm an in-demand speaker. And I can teach you if you are introverted and you are worried about learning how to flip your expertise into a speaking career. I'm telling you, I can do that. Right? Because I've done it. People are buying that now. No, people aren't just buying the information you can share with them. They're buying the results that you have already gotten, whether you've gotten that result for yourself or many other people. Like in our business accelerator, our coaching business accelerator, we have doctors who have worked with a ton of patients in one area. So your receipts don't have to come from you. Maybe in your, previous profession, you've worked with a ton of people in this area. And so your expertise came that way. Wherever your expertise came from, own a bigger result, solve a more sophisticated problem. Stop deciding to stay safe and be a generalist because you're so afraid of failing. It's going to ruin your business. Okay. So that's what we did to get up to multiple six figures in business. We started solving more sophisticated problems. We started qualifying and disqualifying people. Let me say it more plainly for what you guys are really scared of. We started excluding people. We started excluding people. So we no longer help any and everybody. We started excluding people. So we did some testing. And for those of you who don't know, we run a 30-day plant-based vegan, salt, oil, and sugar-free challenge twice a year. Okay, January and then a summer challenge. So we did the first two iterations of the challenge, and I just did it open to whoever, right? 30-day vegan free challenge, right? Wasn't a coaching program. We didn't necessarily I'm like, oh, we ain't got to specialize right away. I'm like, let me just do it as like service, right? But I started noticing the type of individuals who were like buying the VIP tickets. I started noticing the type of individuals who were asking questions. And so guess what I did? We've now rebranded our 30-day vegan challenge specifically for speakers, coaches, and consultants. We're about to solve a more sophisticated problem. So this challenge is now going to be a challenge that helps speakers, coaches, and consultants optimize their health so they can start showing up better on the stage or in their coaching program. So we're going to help you make sure you're healthy from the neck down, because a lot of us, that is our hindrance to showing up fully in our business. We either have insecurities, we are self-conscious, or we literally have physical limitations like we're in pain all the time, so we can't travel like we need to, right? Or we're on medications, or we got like stomach issues and it prevents us from being able to just navigate our career like we need to at a high level. This is a fast-paced career once you become in demand. And so we have now rebranded our 30-day vegan SOS free challenge, specifically targeting speakers, coaches, and consultants. So that is an example of how we do this, right? Like we have our coaching programs that are specified and solving sophisticated problems. Now, even our free public offer is solving a more sophisticated problem. So now our language around this challenge is being marketed differently and being positioned differently in the marketplace. I specifically want to work with current and aspiring speakers and coaches to help them do exactly what I did. I optimized my health before I went crazy in my speaking and coaching career. And that really helped me with showing up differently and building a personal brand. When you're building a personal brand and your name is the brand, man, you better be the best version of yourself, because you got to be able to handle critique and judgment and all the things that come with being a personal brand. And so we want to help speakers and coaches do that through our 30-day challenge, right? So thank you for that super dope reminder, Wanda. Okay. We'll be back here next Monday, same time, with another Monday morning keynote, either in health or business, breaking things down for speakers, coaches, and consultants to help you guys move your needle and get to the next level. Thank you for sticking with us today. What a wonderful morning. It's going to be a phenomenal day. Until next week. Bye, y'all.
You tuned in today because, like me, you refuse to let your good become the enemy of your great. You're not settling for good health when optimal is well within reach. If you're ready to go from good to great, visit lisaangelsmith.com to learn more about our plant-based health coaching program, Farm to Table, and our plant-based business accelerator and coaching certification. But before you go, if you enjoyed what you heard today, please consider rating and reviewing this podcast. Until next time, remember, radical obedience is still undefeated. Stay obedient.